Whatever we're addicted to actually is not the problem. It was the solution. The real problem was fear. I don't want to feel this feeling of anxiety. Let me go jerk off. I don't want to feel this feeling of anxiety. Let me light the cigarette up. When you remove the solutions, the tools that you've created for all these years, then you're left feeling the feeling. Now I have to face all of it. I get to enter in to a relationship with myself in a whole new way. Hello, and welcome to The Shift with Ben Brown. This is my first episode, and I'm thrilled. And today's topic of episode 1 is going to be entering in. We have a saying in recovery, I'm sober. We say our recovery is not an abstraction. It exists in relationship. And I like to use that not only for recovery, but for just growth in general. So you can substitute the word recovery for the word growth. Our growth is not an abstraction. It exists in relationship. And I'm going to elaborate on what I feel like that means based on my experience. I'm going to give you a brief history of my own journey that got me here. I was a pothead by the time I was 14. And, big time weed smoker, smoking probably around 10 times a day. I was also, by that point in my life, heavily addicted to masturbation, masturbating anywhere between 3 and 5 times a day. And there was something that happened one day when I was 16 years old. I was on the train coming back from basketball practice, the one train going from the Upper West Side to the Bronx where my father lived. And I saw this gorgeous Latina girl about my age on the train. And I had never stopped to talk to a girl in public before, but I wanted to talk to her so bad. And she was sitting, there was a guy sitting next to her, but the guy got up and I was like, all right, Ben, you got to take the seat. So I went and I took the seat next to her, and I'm sitting next to her, and my heart was beating so loudly that in my mind, I was freaking out because we were shoulder to shoulder, and I was like, oh, she's going to feel my heart beating through my shoulder. Whether she did or she didn't, I don't know. But I got on the train at 86th Street and rode the train next to her up until 181st Street, which, as some of you New Yorkers know, is the stop where a lot of the Dominicans get off, Washington Heights. And she gets up to get off the train. I jump up. She gets out off the train, and I stand there at the doorway like, am I going to follow her out? Am I not going to follow her out? What do I do? What do I do? The train doors close in my face, and I am immediately filled with the biggest feeling of regret that I had ever felt in my life. Mind you, I was a virgin at this point. I had never even had a girlfriend. I think I had maybe kissed like 2 women. It was very late starter with all this stuff. And I remember walking home to my father's apartment in the Bronx, just feeling this just the heaviest feeling of regret that I had ever felt. And what I did was, for the next 2 weeks, every single morning and every single night that I got on that one train, I would scour the entire train. I would go from one end of the train all the way through every single car looking for her. And after about 2 weeks, I gave up. And I made a vow to myself. I said, Ben, you will never let another beautiful woman pass you without shooting your shot, without trying to get her phone number. You will never let yourself have that experience of pain ever again. And that's exactly what I did. So at the age of 16, on top of being a pothead and, definitely a porn addict at that point, definitely addicted to masturbation, I became addicted to hitting on women in the street. Not just in the street, wherever, anywhere, train. If I saw an attractive woman, it was my duty, it was my rule that I had to go talk to her. And for the record, 99.9% of the time that I did it, it never felt good. I was always riddled with anxiety and fear the entire time that I was doing it, but there was a voice in the back of my head that said, you cannot let this opportunity pass. You absolutely have to do it. So I would do it over and over and over again. And I got pretty good at it. I was never skeevy about it. I was never like, yo, ma, what's good? It was always like, excuse me, miss. Yes. Hi, my name is Ben, and I just wanted to come over and say hello. And, sometimes they'd be like, okay, Ben, hi. And I'd be like, what, is it cool if I walk with you for a block or two? And sometimes they'd be like, no, get the fuck away from me. And I would walk away. And other times they'd be like, sure. And we would walk, and I would often get the number. And I would start, dating women or trying to date women. But what I realized was that I had incredible performance anxiety. So I would get into these situations with these women sometimes when, we would get to the point where we would be able to, about to have sex or something like that, and I couldn't get it up. I recognize now, in retrospect, that I was trying to force myself into being a version of myself that I truly, genuinely was not. At the time, I didn't know that, right? I just saw myself as being defective, or there being something wrong with me. Why are all my friends, getting laid and having all these experiences and have girlfriends and this and that, and me, it's like I couldn't do it, right? So when I was 17, I actually lied to my friends and made up some girl named Jackie, told them that I met her in Blockbuster Video, which dates me. It tells you how old I might be. And told everyone that I had sex with this girl that I met in the Bronx in Blockbuster Video. That never actually happened. For the interest of time, I'm going to fast forward a little bit, right? So then when I was 20 years old, I met my first girlfriend, had a beautiful relationship, ended up losing my virginity to her, and we were together until I was 23. And then when I was 23 years old, one day, a friend of mine took me to a club in Times Square that was called Noche. And I had never been to a club in New York City at this point. And he takes me to this club, and I walk in, and it was 3 floors of just gorgeous women in tiny little outfits, and I was mesmerized. I was like, oh, shit. Because I lived in Hastings-on-Hudson in the suburbs, right? This was not a normal thing for me. So I'm looking around, I'm seeing this music blasting, all these hot women in skirts dancing all over the place, and I was immediately like, oh, there's a whole nother world out there that I need to be a part of. A week later, I broke up with my girlfriend of 3 years that I thought I was going to marry. She was blindsided, like, crying, and I was like, I couldn't even deal with her tears. I was like, I got something that I need to go explore. I can't even hear you right now. So I just, I kept it moving, and then I started hitting the clubs and all these sorts of things. Lots of more experiences of performance anxiety, getting into situations with women where I was drunk at a club and would go home with them and, couldn't get it up because it was just it wasn't who I was. Met a girlfriend when I was 28 years old. We were together from 28 to 32. Cheated on her a bunch. Never felt good, but couldn't stop. Couldn't stop any of it. Finally, let's fast forward to 2019. In 2019, I was walking down the street to go meet a real estate client. And one of my things is I'm a real estate agent. And this beautiful woman walks past me in the street, and I turn like, oh, I got to go talk to this woman. But then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm going to be late to this client if I stop to go talk to this woman. But I'm like, I can't not take this opportunity to go talk to this woman. So I go back to talk to her. And as I'm speeding up to catch up to this woman, for the first time in probably 1,000 times of doing that, I had this thought, something's off. There's a problem here. It was the very first time I had that thought. And then about 2 weeks later, I was in my real estate office in Soho, and I was Xeroxing something, and I looked out the window, and I saw down on Broadway and like Spring Street, this beautiful woman getting into the train, like walking down the steps of the subway. And I jetted down the stairs of the office, ran down into the train, caught up to her, asked her for her number, got it, and came back. As I'm walking back up the stairs, though, even though I got the number, it was the second time where I was like, something's off. There is something not right happening in me. I am out of alignment. That was the second time. Here's the third time. I'm in a car, an Uber, with a buddy of mine on my way to Lucali in Brooklyn for pizza. And he and I are in the back, and we're like talking about girls he's dating, girls I'm dating, whatever. And we get to Lucali, and the driver turns around, and he sees, before we get out of the car, and he says to me, he says, guys, I'm sorry, I don't mean to have been eavesdropping, but I just want to let you know that chasing women and sex ruined my life. I lost my wife. I lost the ability to see my kids. I lost a really, really great job that I had at the time. And he held up this book that said something about Jesus on the cover of it, which I immediately checked out when I saw that at the time. And he said, it wasn't until I found God that I started to get my life back together. And we got out of the car, and I remember I didn't really have a relationship with God at the time. So the God part of it kind of like turned me off. But there was something about hearing him say that chasing women ruined his life, and he lost his wife, and he lost his kids, and he lost a great job. That hit me. And several months later, I want to say I was maybe about 3 months after that, I set foot February 6, 2019, into my very first meeting for, let's just call it, romance issues. And here's where entering in begins. Our recovery, our growth is not an abstraction. It exists in relationship. So I entered in to this relationship with this program. I started going to meetings. And one of the things that I'm very grateful for was that immediately, as soon as I got to these meetings, I was wrapped by the shares that I was hearing from other men and women. Actually, yeah, I wasn't just going to men's meetings at the time. I was going to men's meetings and co-ed meetings. And I was hanging on the edge of my seat, listening to every single thing that other people had to share. Because I recognized at that time that I was not living a life that I was meant to live. I didn't know how to live another life. I didn't know how to get anywhere else. But I knew that I was not living the life that I was meant to live. And I believed that these people in these rooms had information that I needed. So I went to meetings every single day. I got my hand up every single chance that I got. Anytime that someone shared something that I was, taken by, interested in, curious about, I would walk up to them after the meeting and say, hey, can I get your number? Can we have a chat? I was entering in to a relationship with something new. And through that entering in, new things started to happen. Advice I was getting from people. I remember this one guy said to me, just pray every morning and every night before you go to bed. And I was like, I don't really have a relationship with God. I mean, I kind of believe in God, but I don't really. He's like, it doesn't even matter. Just every morning, say whatever you want to say. Hit your knees. Say whatever you want to say. And every night before bed, say whatever you want to say. Just say it to God, to higher power, to whatever you want. Even if it's, God, I don't believe in you. I don't even know if you exist, but this is where I'm at and this is what I have to say. Even if you're pissed, that whatever, just say it and pray. And so I said, okay, because I was obedient at that point of my recovery. I just did what I was told. Then 2 months later, April 20th, 2019, I decided through a really bad night out where I ended up getting fucked up and I was hungover the next day, that I was going to get sober off drugs and alcohol. That there was really no way that I was going to be able to enter in to this new relationship with this program and the things that I was hearing in this program unless I put down the booze and the drugs. Because I recognized that anytime I was out, as soon as I was one drink in, I was thinking about who can I text to try to set something up for later. Every single time. So April 20th, 2019, I quit the booze. I quit the hard drugs. And the combination of attempting to be kind of off of women, no dating, no sex, no masturbation, because the program was saying, hey, like, try putting everything on pause. And I was like, okay, I'll try that. And then now quitting booze and drugs after having done them for almost my entire life, it hit so hard, the withdrawal symptoms. I was enraged all the time. I was just, my inner addict was just looking for something to cling on to. So I found myself, what became my vice during that period of time were double cheeseburgers, double bacon cheeseburgers, and chocolate milkshakes. I wanted them I even started smoking an occasional cigarette. I'm not a smoker. But I just needed something. And I remember one day I was in a meeting and I had my hands, my head in my hands, and I was just like, oh, this is so hard. I hate this. Da, 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 da. When is it going to get easier? And this guy at the end of the meeting comes over to me and he goes, he was gay. And he was like, honey, let me get this straight. You quit booze and hard drugs, and you're trying to quit sex and hollering at girls in the street and masturbation and porn all at the same time? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, honey, you're going to be in a lot of pain for quite some time. So learn to get used to it. And don't quit before the miracle happens. So I listened. And actually hearing him say that made me feel so much better, because in that moment, I felt like terminally unique. Like, this is a me thing. Most people don't have this level of pain with what they're going through. And he was like, no. Like, they do. And you're shocking your system with the things that you're taking away from it right now. And what I learned was the way to really, one of the ways to really start to heal is it can't just be taking away. It's like, what am I replacing those things that I'm taking away with? This is all part of entering in. I'm entering in to a relationship. I'm entering into a relationship with what is this program offering me? The program, and this isn't just for people this is not a podcast about sobriety per se. This is a podcast for anyone who is experiencing a shift where I keep running into the same pattern. This thing keeps happening in my life. What am I doing? How am I playing a role in this continuation of this unhealthy or undesirable thing that is continuously happening? I had a friend tell me, he was like, you know what? Our addiction are the things that we were addicted to. Sex, drugs, porn, masturbation, social media, whatever it was, whatever our cigarettes, booze, whatever we're addicted to actually is not the problem. It was the solution. The real problem was fear. The real problem was that we had something happening within us that we did not want to feel. So we gathered all of these tools, unhealthy tools, as coping mechanisms. I don't want to feel this feeling of anxiety. Let me go jerk off. I don't want to feel this feeling of anxiety. Let me light the cigarette up. I don't want to feel this feeling of being insecure or whatever. Let me go call this girl or go talk to this girl in the street, or let me go, do this next thing, whatever, right? All these different things that we did to avoid feeling the feeling. So the reason why the withdrawal symptoms were so intense is that when you remove the solutions, the tools that you've created for all these years, then you're left feeling the feeling. Now I have to face all of it. I get to enter in to a relationship with myself in a whole new way. And now I get to choose to develop new coping mechanisms that hopefully aren't unhealthy, that hopefully don't take me farther away from myself, that actually bring me closer to the truth of who I am. So I started to develop what we call top-line behaviors, healthy behaviors. What are things that I no longer want to participate in my life, and what are healthy things that I can replace them with? Maybe I stop watching porn and chasing women all over town and masturbating compulsively and drinking and doing drugs and all these other things that, once again, are pulling me away from who I am, that are really just tools that I'm using to avoid facing something. And what if I learned new ways of sitting with it and facing it all? So I got a breathwork therapist that was all about teaching you how to use breath to feel all of the feeling and breathe right into it. And to let it come up, and to breathe right into it, and to not jump. And it was so like, oh, I want to reach for that, but it was like you start to learn through practice. Whatever you practice, you get good at. Whatever you practice, you get good at. So through practice of breathing into the feeling, I started to get better at it. I started to believe, okay, I can feel this feeling and I can breathe right into it, and I know it's not going to kill me. I know it's not going to kill me because now I actually have experiences of it not killing me, right? I'm feeling the feeling, I'm breathing, and I'm not dying. There, proof that I can live through it. What's another thing that I learned to do? Call someone. Yo, I'm fucking struggling right now. Okay, breathe with me. Okay, yeah. Okay, I hear you. Just breathe with me for a second. We're going to talk about it in a minute. Breathe with me. So that became a new tool. Calling someone, talking to someone, being in therapy, journaling, meditating, listening to classical music. Once again, because I entered in to the relationship, I now have all these new opportunities to find these new things that I get to, that to become part of the relationship that I'm entering into, and all get to be part of my shift. The shift from the I-centeredness to the, call it higher power, higher self-centeredness. The me to the we. When you are so caught up, when I was so caught up in my addiction, my addictive needs, avoiding the uncomfortable feeling, there is no room for empathy. It's not about what another person is feeling, because your discomfort is so intense that you will do anything. I would do anything to make that feeling go away. And it didn't matter what I had to do in order to make that happen, who I potentially had to hurt in the process. But then I take everything off the table. I learn all these new healthy ways of doing things. I start to do more yoga or walking or hiking, or I replace the gym, really intense workouts to get that animal energy, out in a healthy way. Play more basketball, make more phone calls, hit more meetings, pray more meditation, whatever it is, whatever these things that I start to develop. or become part of my new way, my new lifestyle, my new routine, helped me make the shift that I knew I needed to make from the me to the we. Is there something, a pattern in your life that you want to break free from? Something in your life that you're not doing enough of, that you want to do? Something in your life that you're doing too much of, that you want to do less of? And often, if you find the thing that you're doing too much of, the unhealthy habit, and you find a way to lessen that, you will start to uncover that you have way more bandwidth and space and healthy desire to actually go after things that you genuinely want, that actually feed your soul and your spirit. And now, after being in this program for 7 years and being sober for almost 7 years, and now sponsoring, I have 5 sponsees. I only sponsor men, so these happen to be 5 guys that I have had, that I have had the privilege of hearing about their stories and working with them and helping them to see what are their unhealthy patterns and working with them on a weekly basis to start to create new habits and ways of making their lives better and for them to live the lives that they actually want to live. And that process of sponsoring other men, speaking at meetings, recognizing the impact, the positive impact that I have had on others, both in a large group, speaking in front of 200 people or just doing one-on-one work with someone else, is what got me here in this chair right now. I said, I need to pay this forward. I have learned so many things along my way that have helped me to become the version of myself that I can stand before you now and say, I am so proud of. I look in the mirror now and I'm like, you are a beautiful man. You are a good human. You are living your life exactly the way that you want to live it. You are connected to God. You are connected to others. You are not lying to people. You are not treating other people like shit. And that is just a complete transformation from where I was before. And I have all these things, people, groups, breath work, this, that, and the other thing to thank for it, that have created these shifts in my life. And I want to pay it forward. All of you out there that are sober curious or feel stuck in any way, shape, or form, that are looking for a place to come where you can hear stories about people who are having these shifts and moving slowly from a place where they don't feel so great about things to a place where they feel a lot better about things. This is for you. And I am just so grateful that I get to be here in this position to share these things with you. That's all for episode 1. Until next time.